But I think one of the other issues that we have here is something we've talked about before, which is our lack of a definition of what we really want to be.
Yeah.
And see,
Yeah.
it's going to take, we're never going to be able to rearrange because we don't know what we want to rearrange to.
Yeah, because everybody have their own there's so many different factions of people and everybody have their own definition of what they
Hmm.
think we should do.
Right. So, and at the end of it all is, we got to come to a point where, and it's, I do believe it always starts with the family, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
What's going on, family? I'm just here to remind you that you can get yourself a copy of my new book, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 4, The Caribbean, by visiting my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com, and help support me as I continue on my mission to make sure that my people have our information, even though, there are many people trying to stop us from learning our history. But hey, we can teach ourselves. And one of the tools we can use is my new book, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 4, The Caribbean. Remember, visit my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com, to get your copy. And I appreciate your support.
What's good, family? We back up in the building. It's me, Joseph Ward. It's him, Patrick Irvin. And when you see us together, you already know it's Breakdown Friday. We're here to take the information from our master teachers, from our ancestors who gathered all this great information. And some of them are still living, who gathered all this great information together. And it's the least we can do is take the information, understand the information, break it down, and be able to use the information to better our situation. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to create that spark. We ain't trying to say we got all the answers, but we coming up with some answers, and we need y'all help too. So that's where y'all come in the comments with constructive criticism and constructive information, adding to the conversation. So make sure y'all do that too. Hey, and like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Subscribe to this channel, all of that. Shout out to everybody who's been supporting On the Shoulders of Giants. We have been growing. Shout out to all my patrons. I love y'all. Shout out to everybody on my email list. If you want to become a part of my email list, go to my website, and it's the easiest way to sign up for my email list. That way you can get a lot of other information. Yeah, we out here. We doing our thing and working to grow this platform. And thank you all for being a part of growing this platform. Pat.
Yo.
What up?
I was gonna say something crazy, but then I remember what channel we was on.
Yeah.
Nothing, man. I'm chilling. How are you?
Yeah. Man, hey man, everything is copacetic.
Okay. I see the channel almost at 40,000 views.
We almost at 40
subs.
We almost at 40,000 subs. So appreciate all y'all for that. Thank you, my brother. And we need y'all help getting 40,000. But the ultimate goal, the ultimate short-term goal right now is 50,000. So we need y'all help to get to 50,000. But we almost at 40,000. So appreciate everybody, and let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing. Hey, but guess what, Pat?
What up?
Tell them about. You know what it is. You know what
I'm about to tell them about the gun line, Bow.
Tell them about your book, Bow.
The book is The Chasm, and it's a book that looks at the history of Black men and women in America and some of the things that have driven us apart and what we can do to come back together. So it gives some solutions from my perspective, but it's mostly a book to help you understand the history of what we've gone through, give you some things to research. It's a starting point. So yeah, the book is on Amazon. Type in The Chasm by Patrick Irvin. It'll come up. It looked like the thing he was just holding up. Do that. We appreciate it.
You heard us.
Oh, and I do want to say I have noticed an uptick in sales. So
shout out because y'all the greatest. Because y'all the greatest.
I appreciate you, man. That.
The folk who rock with me the greatest. So I appreciate all y'all. Pat, appreciate y'all. Y'all the greatest.
Absolutely.
Y'all the greatest. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into it. We got Dr. Wade Nobles, a clip from Dr. Wade Nobles. It's about a 7-minute clip. So we're not going to run it and then stop and do our breakdown. We're gonna take it piece by piece. Talk about conditioning and how Black people have been conditioned. I like the way he was breaking it down. So let's get into this clip.
To look into the eyes of the sheep, because in looking at the eyes of the sheep, you see what you believe to be your origin. Look at this process. First you nurture the sheepdog on the sheep. Then psychologically, you give the sheep the image that its origin is the sheep. And then given the territorial imperative or the territorial instinct of the sheepdog, as the sheepdog becomes a teenager, you put into the barnyard baby sheepdogs. Your baby sheepdogs. The sheepdog who's a teenager now in time will fight the baby because of its territorial instinct. But what it learns and what it's conditioned to believe is that which nurtured it, that which is its origin, must be protected at the price of other sheepdogs. We are sheepdogs. We are sheepdogs. It's not enough for us to be talking about what them other black folk did.
So you had some of your, because you raised up.
No. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Okay. So I've listened to this clip several times because I wanted to make sure I get a good grasp on it before we got here. And for me, from what I'm gathering, he's breaking down the psychological conditioning of a slave.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the slave, but this Negro mindset that we have, what we've been talking about for a while. And so take black people and he used the analogy he used. He took the sheepdog, you put the sheepdog around the sheep. The sheepdog has grew up around the sheep. Since the sheepdog grew up around the sheepdog thinks it's a sheep. Then we introduce other sheepdogs, younger sheepdogs, and to this sheepdog who has been conditioned to be a sheep. That sheepdog will fight those other sheepdogs to make sure that they receive the same conditioning as he does. So we're talking about generational conditioning of a slave. That's what I gather from that. What about you?
I gather the same thing. Talking
Okay.
about the conditioning of black people. Yeah, I gather
Okay.
the same thing.
Okay. And I think when it comes to conditioning, because I know Dr. Amos Wilson hits on it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to make sure that we understand what conditioning is, the various ways it could be used, and how it really affected our people and still affects our people throughout the centuries. We've been conditioned, like we've already said, we've been conditioned to be a specific class of people. And there are a number of us who are able to recognize what happened to us and then working to reverse it. But for the most part, we've been conditioned to be a specific class, more so working class, more so lower class, a class of people. We've been conditioned now to a class of people that won't rise up because we were conditioned to be a work class. But even in that working class, even in being working class people, we still revolted, because as you can see now, we don't revolt. We talk revolution, but we don't revolt today. So we've been the fight has been taken out of us for today. But for the most part, it's the continued conditioning of people to exist in a specific manner, in my opinion, in a specific manner that will lead to their destruction until the people learn how to reverse the conditioning that happened to them.
And to that, I would just want to add, when we talk about conditioning, a lot of us need to understand conditioning is not something that you can just turn off.
Right.
It's not something that just because you're aware of it, that's enough to undo it. No, you're aware of it, but you're still conditioned.
We see it all the time.
Right. And that's how you have some of the most outspoken and intelligent and self-aware people in the world, and you see them do something and you're like, what? But you talk about that all the time. It's the conditioning taking effect all over again. So it's one of them things. I like the way you put it, working to reverse it, because you do have to deprogram and reprogram something else to undo it. And that's not something that can just be done overnight. But to start the process, we do have to recognize that the conditioning has been done.
Yeah, the behavior pattern has to be replaced with a more positive and constructive behavior pattern than the behaviors that we have that are more destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that we have to look at. Like you said, it's more than just being able to recognize. I ask people all the time, if it took like 500 years for us to be conditioned to where we are now, how long do you think it would take to reverse that condition? I mean, but because let's think about any process, that a person goes through. The process has a time frame, whether it's a short time frame or a long time frame. But when we're talking about mental conditioning, because it was a process to condition us to be what we are
Mm-hmm.
now. That wasn't overnight. They didn't drop slaves off in the United States in the 1600s and like 1619 and then 1620 everything was good. No, it took time to get us to where we are now. So how much time, realistically, how much time is it going to take to reverse that? Because one thing I do like about this clip as we go, he's giving solutions and we're going to hit up on those. But right now, one is to reverse what has happened. But the question is, how long will that take and what are the proper means to reverse them? So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's keep going.
What them other black folk did. We have to look at ourselves and see that we are victims of the same process where we believe that our nurturance, and sometimes, and Ellis told me I shouldn't do this, but I have to use the analogy, I have to use this example. Clarence Thomas probably represents a good example of this. Because being nurtured at the breast of Barbara Bush, and then looking into the eyes of President Bush, he begins to believe that he is a Bush. He is a Bush. And any other black man, woman, or child that comes into his territorial imperative will be attacked to the death. Now that is something we have to understand, because while I use Clarence, the fact of the matter is it is in each of us. We've been trained that way. We've been nurtured that way. We've been looking into the eyes of the sheep and not realizing what it means to be an authentic African. That's our quest. Our quest is to begin to talk about turning away from these images and these notions of systematic.
Yeah.
You got to work to be white. You got to be, bro. You got to be white. We've been conditioned to be white, bro. Why you ain't acting white, bro?
Well, the interesting thing about that is he brings up Clarence Thomas, who is interesting. But another example that we see modern day that people don't like is Kanye West. Look at first what happened when he became a Kardashian, and then look at what happened when he became a Trump supporter.
Yeah,
he went all in,
hook, line, and sinker.
Started calling Trump a father figure and everything. It was so bad that Kanye West ran a presidential campaign at the behest of the Trump family in order to siphon votes away from enemy parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was willingly used as a tool against his own people.
Yeah. This is the standard of living. And if you don't meet this standard, which is this white standard, if you don't meet this white standard of living, then you're not really out here trying to get it as a black person. You're not really successful. You're not making it in life, because we have to meet this standard. I put out there's a lecture here on the channel. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. And it's Dr. Amos Wilson, You Will Never Be Accepted by White America, because that's one thing I really do like about this clip, because it has a lot in it that we can draw from the other videos that I've put out. But the need for white acceptance, because the idea of success is the white standard, because I've been conditioned to expect this and to think this and to live this and to just take this in. Like you said, Kanye, that was a great example, because he went all out. He went all out for Trump to show his allegiance and his loyalty.
And even on the other side, since Kanye represents that side of the house, you got Sister Sanders, the black chick that tackled the person for Joe Biden.
Sanders.
Simone Sanders.
Yeah.
On that side. Now, on her end, when she didn't get the job in his administration that she wanted,
She
she
was so
has
hurt.
been reported as saying, "What's the point of tackling people for white people if white people won't stand up for you?" But it's the conditioning. Like, and
Yeah,
now that she's
yeah.
aware of it, that doesn't mean that the conditioning has been undone. That
She
just
still
means
do
now
it.
she's aware of it.
Right. She her feelings a little hurt, but that don't mean she won't do it again. Because all he got to do is make great promises and make
Right.
great
And
gestures.
she did get
And
a job. She just go ahead.
but she didn't get the job she wanted.
She didn't, right. That's what I was gonna say. She did get a job. She just didn't get the job she wanted.
Right.
So there's just enough meat on that bone for her to make for him to make her another promise later, and her to bite on it.
But it's like that the idea, like what is going through your mind to say, I'm going to put my safety on the line for these people, for these politicians. That's some deep seated conditioning, some deep seated need for acceptance and love from white people to say, I am going to literally put my safety and my life, my freedom, and everything on the line for this particular person because I feel like with this particular person, I can get what I've been trying to achieve in my life. You do that, and then they still give you their ass to kiss. Well, the same thing with black people and just being Democrats, period. We're putting everything on the line politically, and white people are giving us their ass to kiss.
When you go back to, and that's where, because when I look at the type of support, not even just Democrats, even some of the independent party, you look at Bernie Sanders. I know he's a Democrat by name, but he's an independent. He's a socialist independent. But you look at the type of support that he gets from black people because he did some walking 60
Right,
years ago.
right, right.
Um, and you just go down the line, you kind of like politics, I think, is a great way of showing the conditioning of black
Yes,
people in
yes.
America.
What
And
to
you
know
see it
better?
on all, like on every single part of the political spectrum. You see it when black people buy into these white people, because they never buy into the black ones. Cynthia McKinney, when she ran for president, I think it was in 2008, nobody even gave her no goddamn attention, and then she ended up getting kicked all the way out of politics. um but you never saw that sort of groundswell of black
Well,
support for hardcore
well, well,
pro-black politicians.
well. Remember, Kamala Harris didn't get no love from black people till she got on the team with Joe Biden.
Right. Again, yeah, and we have to say this, but Kamala Harris, nah, that's another show. But even Barack Obama, right? Even Barack Obama, people is really black people for the most part was really messing with Michelle. They wasn't too much messing with Barack. Barack was a
Yeah,
safe
yeah,
Negro.
yeah, yeah. It was a lot of, especially the first time around, a lot of people rock with him because of Michelle.
Right. Michelle held his black card in her purse.
Yeah, yeah,
So it wasn't like and then as his presidential term went on, you started hearing comedians and a lot of black people saying, "Look, man, we would love to be critical of Barack, but y'all keep fucking with him, so we got to defend him."
yeah,
That's not the type of hardcore conditioning you see from the black folk that support Trump or Bernie or the Clintons or Biden,
yeah.
or
Because
you know what I'm saying?
they're gonna go the protection that Barack Obama got from just general black Democratic people ain't the same as the fanatical protection that black
Right.
people would give to white people.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's
basically what he's
exactly what
saying.
we're getting at. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, what
yeah.
I'm getting
All
at.
right, all right. Let's move on.
Reformation of the mind. See, we've been rearranged. We don't need to be upset about it. The fact of the matter is that we've been rearranged. And if I recognize that I've been rearranged, it seems to me that's an empowerment. Because now the task is, how do I rearrange the brother back? How do
It's empowerment, yes, but you got to put, and I'm not saying, let me make this clear. I am not saying that Dr. Wade Nobles is not saying what I'm about to say. I'm not implying nothing. Don't take nothing out of context. I mean exactly what I'm about to say. This is just for the people, just to make sure we understand what he is saying. When you figure out, like we just said, when you figure out what has happened to you, now it's your job to change it. It's not enough to just figure it out and just be happy that you figured it out. Now you have to take the steps to change it. I just want to say that.
I rearrange the system back. It becomes a mathematical equation for us to begin to struggle with this in an analytical way to look at how, in fact, we can turn that around. The arrangement process is, in fact, predictable. All the results of the arrangement we know. We see them. Mental illness in the African community is the results of the arrangement. Drug addiction, alcoholism, poverty, ignorance, family dysfunction are all examples of our being rearranged. Homelessness, spousal abuse, black-on-black crime, depression, alienation, all those are part of the fact of us being rearranged. Racial rejection, I mean, the fact that you reject that which is essential to who you are has to be the results of a rearrangement. Gender confusion, rearrangement, self-negation and denigration, all those are problems in our communities, but they're the results of this systematic notion of rearrangement. So what do we do with that if we begin to take the analysis and say these are the issues? Then we no longer begin to indict each other about what we're not doing. Our task, your task, is to begin to understand that if this is a result of the rearrangement, how do I restructure the Africanness in us so that
Great part to stop. How do we restructure ourselves based off what has happened to us? Now, he named a lot of things. Racism is the root cause of everything that he named. That's what he's saying. Racism, white supremacy is the root cause of a lot of the issues that we have in our community. All right, we know that. Now what? We can't just intellectualize off of it. Can't just hold the information and feel like you're smart. All right, racism is the root issue. So we have all of these other outcomes because of racism: poverty, crime, prostitution, all of the disparities that we face. So, in my opinion, just from years of working in the community, we have these disparities. We see these disparities are the symptoms. Racism is the cause, and these are the symptoms. We can't be focused on just treating the symptoms. We have to get to the root cause of the issue. Do we have to deal with the symptoms? Yes, we do have to deal with the symptoms, but we can't just focus on the symptoms. We do have to get to the root cause of the problem, because if we don't get to the root cause of the problem, we're not going to be able to end the symptoms and do a true rearrangement of what he's talking about. To be able to put ourselves in a safe space to really rearrange our minds to a healthy African state, or to be able to exist in America as Black people in a healthy manner, in a productive manner that is conducive to us being better, being free of disparities, being prosperous, all these things. But we have to deal with the root cause of the problem. That's going to help with the rearrangement. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think in dealing with the root cause, we have to recognize the symptoms and the root causes, differentiate them, prioritize them, because there are going to be some issues, some root causes you aren't going to be able to get to until you deal with the symptoms. You gotta
deal with the symptoms.
Yeah, you gotta be. And I say that because a lot of people think, well, we can just ignore the symptoms and go straight to the root cause. No, in a lot of cases, the symptoms act as a barrier protecting the root cause. You can't get to it until you move all of this other stuff out of the way. So, but I think one of the other issues that we have here is something we've talked about before, which is our lack of a definition of what we really want to be.
Yeah.
And see, it's going to take, we're never going to be able to rearrange because we don't know what we want to rearrange to.
Yeah, because everybody have their own, there's so many different factions of people, and everybody have their own definition of what they think we should do.
Right. So, and at the end of it all is, we got to come to a point where, and I do believe it always starts with the family, in my opinion.
Yeah. We need families back.
Right. First creating them, Well, figuring out what that term means. What does it mean to be in a family? And I know a lot of people don't like roles. I get it, but to
But
me, there needs to
well,
be a role for everybody in the
it does.
household.
And
Now, it
look,
don't have to be the same for every household, but there
it's
needs
not
to be
it
a
that's
role.
right. It doesn't have to be fixed. It doesn't. We're gonna create roles based off of strengths.
Right.
But
So
but
go ahead.
and my bad. But just
No,
want to
go
say
ahead.
this though. In our community right now, family is needed. That's one of our highest priorities. Repairing
Hmm.
and rebuilding the black family. You're married. I got a lady. We building. Hopefully this work out so I can get it all the way up off the market. But we have a large it seems well I'm going to say it seems like a large portion of our community, especially black men who are anti-marriage or encouraging other black men to not get married because of all of the bull that can come with marriage and unhealthy
Hmm.
relationships and things. So we do have those barriers in helping to rearrange what's going on. But if the focus is families, then we have barriers of getting over ourselves, because right now all of the infighting between different groups of black men fighting against different groups of black men, different groups of black women fighting against different groups of black women, and then overall black men fighting against black women. We're not getting along. We're not getting along in our individual groups, and we're not getting along as a whole. So these are more barriers that we have to jump over to make sure that we can actually build families. Because I don't give a damn what nobody's saying. I don't give a damn none of these YouTube channels and none of these things here. If they're not preaching family, they don't really have our best interest, because we have to have families. We have to build family to be able to build a nation. We have to
Yeah.
have that.
Families are the basic structure of culture and society. And it's just like you can't have a living organism without cells. You can't have matter without atoms. You can't have a culture without families.
Right.
You need it. And families is where the individual expression of each one of us as a person merges with the collective expression of culture. You remove family from that, you remove the ability of the individual to merge with the
Right.
culture in a synchronized way. And so
Right.
that's when we start having all of these problems. And so even with that, because there are a lot of people, and that's why I said we gotta establish and identify roles. If the roles that we have aren't working, you don't just throw everything out. You
Mm,
identify roles that will work, and you go with that. And so I agree with you from the standpoint of people saying, like we just everybody needs to go solo and do their own thing and this, that, and the third. Look, these
mm,
individualistic approaches
mm,
to living in the world, that
mm.
that that
That
might
ain't
work
it
for you, but it's not gonna work for the
for the
collective.
whole. Right.
Right.
We're
That,
we're we're we're
go ahead.
damaging ourselves. We're damaging ourselves.
Right. And that argument could arguably be very strongly could be used as a reason to why the planet is in the shape that it's in, because everybody's looking out for themselves. They not concerned about how their actions impact the collective. And so
Yeah.
they're, as long as they're making money or as long as they're able to get up the good life, they give a damn
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
how long before they destroy the climate or destroy this natural resource or consume that natural resource. They're not worried about it because they're selfish.
Right, but it also seems like some of the messages I understand why some of these guys are saying this, because they are hurt, they had bad experiences and all these yada 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 yada. But doesn't this go into what Dr. Wade Nobles is talking about and what happened to us and why we need one of the critical reasons why we need a rearrangement is because of the way we are behaving? Because this lecture isn't the 2022 lecture. It's maybe
No,
a 90s, 2000s, maybe 2010s lecture. There ain't a 2022 lecture, right?
right. But here's the thing, right? Everybody's been saying the same thing for decades, even
Right,
with regards to relationships. So,
right.
like, if men have been saying the same thing since the 60s, somebody's not listening. And the same can be said for women. And just like with, there are a lot of people in the manosphere saying, women don't bring anything to the table. Well, we as men have to ask ourselves that same, what are we bringing to the table to demand that she brings something to the table. Because if you ain't got nothing but dick, then you can't be mad at her for
Well,
not having anything but pussy.
well, that's what my pops, that's why one reason I rock with my pops, because he gonna keep it real. And he was like, well, and I was asking him about submission, and he was like, well, you got to give him something to submit to. You got to be a man. You can't just be out here. You can't just be out here demanding people to do stuff because that's what you want, because you heard it on a YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you ain't got nothing, you ain't talking about nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we have to be realistic in our approach on how we exist with one another. But what you said though, everybody is so hell bent on their individual lives and their individual pursuits that they can't really give a damn about the collective, and that's one of the issues.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So that goes back to, just to reiterate real quick, we got to define what it is we want to be. It's impossible to answer the question of how long is it going to take us to rearrange when we don't know what we're rearranging
right,
to, and a
right,
lot of that is going to require us to identify what what things were given to us, what things that we consume and accept, and what things were already a part of us that was just exaggerated or maybe turned to benefit other
yeah.
people. Because dealing
And
with those three things are going to be three different processes.
and if we don't, the symptoms going to continue to kill us. Because that's everything across the internet that you can see that's going wrong with us. These are the symptoms of this conditioning. Let's keep going.
That we are no longer looking into the eyes of the sheep and believing that we are in fact more sheep than dog. We do that by what Ellis has talked about in terms of energy and motion. That concept is important when, sometimes we have these conferences, we sit back and think about the titles more in terms of if it's catchy and exotic that we get people to come to, and not that it has meaning and guidelines for us to move forward. It has a meaning and a guideline that I want to work through with you in terms of this notion of energy and motion, because the energy and motion really is a euphemism for understanding the African spirit. That's what the energy and motion is about. It's about understanding the African spirit, and that understanding of the African spirit is what is being driven or worked through. We're struggling with these issues. It's not finalized. But the, in quote, Afrocentric scholars, the African-centered scholars, are struggling with trying to understand this notion of energy and spirit and power as conceptualized in the African tradition. Not as, again, a romantic moment of masturbation with the past. It is in fact a life necessity for us to understand what are the templates and the blueprints that we can pull out and utilize, as Naim was saying, in terms of having the ideal. The ideal gives us the guide and the groundwork for building the future.
So, my question: in this modern time, in 2022, closer to 2023, with the conditions that we have now, the mindsets that we have now, everything currently what it is now, is trying to return to an African-centered way of living the most conducive thing for us in this present moment. Not saying we don't need elements and concepts of it, but does it need to be a return to our African ways that we existed on the continent in the 1400s and on back, and even African customs and traditions that exist today? Is it more conducive for us to try to return to them, or is it more conducive for us to take African traditions and be able to meld them into our, because we over here in America, meld them into our American ways of existing here and be as Africanized as we can be, because we're still incorporating African tradition and culture, but it's still going to be intertwined with who we are here in America, because we are kind of far removed from that. So we do have this unique culture that we've been able to create out of what we've been given here. So will it be more conducive to try to return to these ways, or take some of these traditions and meld them with the culture and the things that we have now, and being able to fix where we are now with that and move forward.
And that's a question I think everybody is going to have to ask for themselves, and then we are going to have to answer that as a collective. I'm on record, and people don't like it, but it is what it is. I think that people that are trying to take us back to ancient Africa are just as bad as the people that are pretending like slavery never happened. Um, I think there is this strong will to not be black, to not be a black American. So whether I claim myself to be a displaced African, or I claim myself to be a Native American, or whatever else, we have this strong desire to disassociate from our history and who we are right here in America. We are a people that has never existed before.
Mm-hmm.
We are one of the, if not the youngest groups, cultural groups of people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
We can pull from all over Africa, but here's the problem: there are thousands of cultures on Africa, and not all of them are going to resonate with all of us, because not all of us pull our genetic lineage from those places. So it puts
Mm-hmm.
us in a difficult situation where if we try to go back to a specific place in Africa, there are going to be a group of us that's just not going to jive with that. Maybe we aren't from there. Maybe our roots aren't from. One of the things we can all connect on is our American heritage. The black folk that existed right here in America, that went through what they went through. I often say slavery was our origin story. And that's how we need to accept it. In my opinion, slavery was the birth of a new type of person, right?
Yeah.
We are the outgrowth of that birth. Those decisions culminated in us. So, yes, we can look back at what those people were before slavery to get some idea of what those people were, and what might be connected to us. But when we're looking at us, right? We are, in my opinion, just as much African as the Europeans. And I know that bothers people when I say it, but it is what it is. They migrated up out of Africa in some theories, and other theories they developed separately, to the development of modern humans in Africa. But at some point they went down there and they got a whole bunch of stuff, and then they took it back to wherever they was, or black people sent it up to them. It's a bunch of different theories on it. But here's what I'm getting at: we're so far removed from those people in Africa, those cultures in Africa, that for the vast majority of us, they're foreign.
But yeah.
And that's not something you can just wipe away by saying, well, we got the same skin color. It's not that simple. So, in my opinion, goes back to what I was saying earlier. We have to really take the time to develop who we are. It's the same as when you talk to a child and you tell that child, you need to figure out who you're going to be in life, and you need to figure that out soon. That's where black people are. We need to figure out who we're going to be in life, because culturally and socially speaking, we are that child. We're fucking preteens coming into our teenage years. And instead of us trying to figure out who we going to be, we're looking at these fantasized versions of grandma and grandpa.
So I don't think it's anything wrong with us being black people in America. I don't think that, because it's no different from being black anywhere else in the world. And understanding how you were, how you came up, how you became this group of people in this specific part of the world, within these cultures, within these cities, wherever you exist. Because we are black, we do have a connection to the African continent, to African people, to African cultures. The problem is we just don't know what that connection is. That's one of the biggest issues. Like you say, we so
Right.
far removed. We so far removed from the connection. The connection is foreign because we're so far removed. And at this point, unless your family or some people, whatever, was able to keep some type of records, you really have no idea. But that doesn't mean that to me, that doesn't diminish our blackness, and blackness as far as consciousness globally. But also, we still have that connection to Africa. We still have that connection to African people. We just have no idea how it's connected, you know.
Here's my view on that. Right? It's been proven that in the brain, the past and the future are connected, right?
Mhm.
People that have amnesia have a difficult time predicting their future or even planning for the future because we use our past to kind of dictate what is possible for us in the future. For those of us that have no past, black people in America, the vast majority of us, we could keep digging around in the fog and picking stuff up and saying, hey, yeah, this looked like me, and I think this was it, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I do think there's value in that. Or we could try to do it the other way. We could instead look to our future and say, I want to be like this, and this. These are the future qualities that are
Well, yeah,
beneficial to me in this way, and this way. And then use that to look back at the past and say, what other people have historically felt like these things were necessary for them to be who they are. And then we could draw a connection to those people. And that way, instead of drawing it from the past to the future, we could draw it from the future to the past, which to me makes more sense because we can actually plan and dictate our future based off where we are in the present. And we know our present is dictated by our past. So it's still making the connection. It's just
right.
instead of going one way with it, we're going
Just
the
going the
other
other.
way
Well,
with it.
yeah. I mean, we saying the same thing,
No,
you
I,
know.
I know, I know, I know, I
Yeah.
know. I'm just saying, I know every time I say we're so wrapped up in being African that we forget about who we are here. And then the other thing happens, right? We start to think that Africans, the 57 different countries, thousands of cultures, all that other stuff, did they feel the same way? And then we start to get disillusioned with them,
When you find out they don't.
right? And it's
And that's
like,
what's
no,
going on now. That's what's
right,
going on now between
right,
the black people in America, the FBA, and black people who are not from America, even FBA and ADOS. We basically found another reason to fight, which goes
right,
back to what he's been saying. We've been rearranged because we all, even in this so-called consciousness and getting out of this consciousness and doing all this and doing that and finding our blackness here and finding our blackness there, we still find a reason to fight with.
right.
Not if it's not black people who have our origins in America, we find a way to fight with black people from other places.
But here is something you always say, right? That fighting is human nature.
Yep.
Humans fight.
Yep.
The problem is usually humans fight, groups fight against groups, right? When they can identify as a group, they have shared traits. Something about
Mhm.
it makes them connect to each other. The problem with black people in America is we don't have those defining traits. And it's not that we don't have them, it's that we spend so much time looking at everything other than ourselves. Like
Yep.
even when we do take
Yep.
a critic, and we're doing it right now, even when we do take a critical stance on black people and what it means to be black, is usually a way of taking a shot at another type of black person. And I say we're doing it right now because a lot of people would view it that way. In my view, I'm saying, look, instead of us constantly looking back and saying we need to be African in this way, we need to identify what we need to be right now for this place, time, and culture we live in. And then we need to group together around that to deal with the issues we have now. And we can look back then, after we figured out who we are, look back and find yourself then. To me, that
Hey,
make more sense. That's just me though.
hey, hey, let's keep going.
Afrocentric is nothing exotic. It simply is a concept. And concepts are important because the ideas are the substance of behavior. Ideas are the substance of behavior. If I say niggas ain't shit, that's an idea. But it influences your behavior. Because as soon as you internalize that idea, you do everything to get away from who you believe to be those black people. You do everything to downgrade those people because you've taken on an idea that has to do with influencing your behavior. Afrocentricity is essentially a term, a concept that categorizes a quality of thought in practice, which is rooted in the cultural image and interest of people of African ancestry. It is the quality of thought in practice that we have to struggle with. The quality of thought and practice. It is not simply taking away white folks doing painting it black. It is understanding what is the essential difference, the essential uniqueness of our way of thinking and our way of doing. It is in fact the Afrocentricity represents the fact.
Yeah, yeah. What you talking about?
Right.
He just said it. He just backed it up. What you were saying?
Right. He just backed up everything I said. The uniqueness of our thought is what we need to be pulling from.
And it's not throwing away anything African. It's putting it in perspective to be able to use it properly to move forward.
Right. And see, and right. And I think that's where I lose people. They think that I'm saying we should throw away. Look, Joe, you know me better than anybody. I spend a lot of time reading African history from the various different countries and cultures. And I enjoy nothing more than having those conversations with you where I get to learn more about some of those things because of the research you've done for the series and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, our thought is unique because we are unique. We are different. There is nobody else that has been through what we've been through right here. And that includes other people on the continent.
Yeah.
And we got to be strong enough to accept that and actually try to do something with it. Define who we are based on who we want to be. We have that capability because they've basically given us amnesia.
So and with that, I don't have an issue with like the FBA, like being able to say we're a foundation of Black Americans. Our who we are, like you said, uniquely who we are is here in America, Black people in America. Now I don't get down with all the infighting and all that stuff.
I don't know.
But I understand why we fight. But you were going to say, I thought you were going to say it earlier, but I'll say this. I think one of the main differences between Black people and other groups of people is all groups of people have fighting and all groups of people infight. But when we infight, we beef after we infight and we no longer get together. Other groups know how to put that stuff aside and come together.
When it's necessary.
We don't like each other. And I'll just be real. Black folk, for the most part, we don't. Everybody, I realize everybody isn't me. Everybody isn't you. You who are watching this right now, you might not even feel that way, but most Black people, we don't really like each other. And that's one of the things that Dr. Wade knows is getting at one of the symptoms of this rearrangement of the racism that has happened to us is we've been conditioned to not like each other and not get along. And when we beef, we carry that beef and we don't know how to let it go. So when things happen to us as a whole, we're so far divided that there is no room to get back together because we're so far divided because we're still mad at what we did to each other.
And the crazy part is it's even worse because Black folks are notorious for holding grudges, right? That's been the stuff of comedic stand-up routines for as far back as we can go. You know what I'm saying? Black people are notorious for holding grudges. And we never hold on to it as tight as we do when it's another Black person. You think about like McDonald's fuck up your orders, you might not go to that McDonald's for the next 2 weeks. I will even say 2 months, but you ain't gonna stop going to all McDonald's. One Black chicken joint, you find a strand of hair in your mashed potatoes, you ain't going to no more Black chicken joints.
Yep,
and I've heard people say this a lot. Now this
Well,
ain't just like one or two. This is a lot. Well, people be like, I don't do black pizza joints because they
well,
mess up your orders.
well, a great example of showing why how black people don't like black people. The clip I sent you in the group chat of the lady, I forgot what state she was from. The lady who walked in the turkey leg hut butt naked, right?
Oh yeah,
This
yeah, yeah.
this lady flew from wherever she was to Houston to walk inside the turkey leg hut butt naked in her protest of the dress code because she and a whole bunch of other black women are mad at the black business for having a dress code. But these same black people have no issues with white establishments having dress codes. Matter of fact, they do their best to go out shopping and look the best to meet the dress code. But because Turkey Leg Hut has a actual dress code, this lady said, "You know what? I'm gonna piss on all of this, and I'm gonna walk in there, and I'm gonna do whatever. Basically, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, I'm gonna do whatever I can to hurt your business, black people. I love black people so much. I'm gonna hurt your business. I'm gonna walk inside your business butt naked, get you negative publicity, whatever I can do to hurt you. I'm gonna do to hurt you because I'm mad that you actually have a simple dress code.
It's the
That's
standard.
ignorant."
It's I think it's the standard, right? It's this idea that I can't believe you telling me that you got rules for me. You black just like me. What you mean we got rules? When white people give me rules, it's expected. But I don't expect for rules and standards to be put in place when it comes
Like
to me and my
r-
own.
respect, like we said a couple shows ago. Start just in your neighborhood. Start building relationships and respectful, healthy relationships with just the people just immediately around you. But we don't have any respect for each other. We don't like each other. We don't respect each other because that that act that we explaining that this lady did showed just a lack of respect. The way we
Hmm.
treat each other just across the board. Now, we're not expecting to save everybody. We're not expecting everybody to be on board. We're not expecting this. We're not probably not even expecting a mass of people to be down with this. But what we are saying for those of us who are truly interested in making change and being different, operating different. It's going to start with, first of all, us behaving different, looking at ourselves different, looking at each other different. If I don't like what I see when I look in the mirror at myself, I'm damn sure not going to like what I see when I look at you. So I have to start with loving myself and getting back to understanding that I am valuable. I am worthy. Every time I look in the mirror, I see God.
But I think another again, I'll say it again, and I've been saying it. I think another issue is um we don't see each other as members of the same group, and that's because I spend a good chunk of time during the day talking to kids, and when you ask them what does it mean to be white, they can tell you very clearly. What does it mean to be white? What does it mean to be American? To be white. So which basically they equate white with American, but they know what both those terms mean. When you ask them what does it mean to be black, it go quiet. We have
Uh,
not
a rapper,
defined, right.
football player.
We've not defined what it means to be black outside of superficial bullshit ass feel good labels.
Yeah.
It means strong. What does strong mean?
Well,
Strong in
that's
what
one
way?
that's one of the
Uh,
main things we need to do. Like you're saying, though, we have to come up with a consistent, stagnant definition of who we are and why we are what we are.
why? Yes.
Why we are what we have to answer the why, the who, what, where, when, why, and how. We have to answer that. We have to answer that. We have to treat each other better. We have to think better. We have to do better. We have to move better. We have to live better. We have to change just everything. Like the way we're so out of order is ridiculous. Like it's not gonna happen. It's what we want to happen is really, if we being real, I ain't I'm not this not if you're looking for people to make you feel good, this ain't the channel for you. I'm gonna just say that. This channel is for black folk who want the real. So if you're looking for that feel good, pandering stuff, you might as well go ahead and turn away now. Look, we're losing, and we're losing because we continue to choose to indulge in destructive behavior. Whether you And whether you think you may not be doing it or not, hey, we've all contributed to where we are now. So we have to be honest with that. So what we can do is, once again, like we've been saying, once we recognize what we are doing that's negative, change those behaviors. Start with that, changing those behaviors with yourselves. You got to. I don't know what else to say, but let's just let this last part play out.
That African people as human beings have a right and a responsibility, to center ourselves in our own subjective possibilities and probabilities, and not someone else's objective illusions about who we are. Sheepdog takes the sheep's illusions about the sheepdog and make those real. We have to begin to understand and center ourselves in our own subjective possibilities and
Hey, we got to define ourselves for ourselves.
And like he said, that's a responsibility.
Responsibility.
It is something that we have to be accountable for. And being trying to be a group with some power requires that group accept responsibility
and sacrifice. Some of y'all gonna have to sacrifice your egos. You will not be the leader. You will not be remembered. But it's for the greater good of the whole.
Everybody want to talk about the collective until they realize they're not going to be the head of it.
You might have to sacrifice for the whole to be stronger. You might not be remembered. So once again, we're gonna have to ask ourselves on the individual level, what's more important, my individual goals, my individual shining, my individualness, or making sure that me and my people are together? Because you can rock with the individualness all you want, but when things happen to you on your individual level, you can't come back to the whole and be like, hey, why y'all ain't help me? I need y'all help. That's one of the perks of having the family, having the nation, having the group, having the people working together. That's one of the perks. We get to protect each other. We get to support each other. If not, you out there on your own.
But that's another responsibility, and I think that's another issue.
That's that R word again.
Yeah, I think the R word and the A word. The responsibility and accountability. Yep.
Man, you mean it's my fault and I got to fix it?
Yeah.
Because hey, we know what the root issue is. We know white supremacy, racism is the root issue. But guess what? I don't have to let that stop me. It's my responsibility to overcome it.
And let me say that again. Go ahead.
It's our responsibility to overcome white supremacy. It's not their responsibility to stop it. It's our responsibility to overcome it. So no matter what the white folk do, we got to go. We got to do our damn thing. We got to be the greatest versions of ourselves, no matter what the white folk doing.
And that requires us to be responsible for each other and accountable to each other.
Hey, ain't nobody responsible for me succeeding or failing in my life but me. I don't care what conditions that we're living in. Nobody's responsible for me succeeding or failing but me. That's how it is. We could do better. That's why we sitting here having these breakdowns, having these difficult, real conversations. And just remember, yeah, we talking to everybody. We talking to ourselves too, because we're no different from you. We don't escape this. We're just here to get the conversation started, put the ideas on the table. But we are not above the criticism. We're not above you all. So we're talking to ourselves and you at the same time, because we in this together. We're in this together. So he Patrick Irvin, I'm Joseph Ward. Make sure y'all check out my website. Thank everybody for rocking with me. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Share this video. Tell somebody about On the Shoulders of Giants, because we on the come up and we ain't stopping. Like I say, this is the channel for people who want real changes, not for people who just want that feel good information. So I love you all. Everybody who rock with me, I love you all. And we catch y'all on the next Friday.